Alright, so Juan Francisco Estrada El Gallo managed to pull off an easy 10-round decision over Raymond Tabugon. Won basically every round, won every round on every scorecard from the judges, and I mean pretty much just dominated. The performance almost reminded me of like watching James Toney in some of his easier fights, or like watching James Toney spar. Just the way he moved about the ring, kind of did like set up shop at mid to close range. Did some little bit of shoulder rolling into his shots out of his defense. Just beautiful boxing overall, and it's really nice to see him back in action. Nice to see him back fighting again, and shaking off any potential ring rust that he might have had after being out for over a year since his fight with Hernandez and Marquez, where he just completely obliterated Marquez and dropped him. I think it was 7 times, and finally stopped him in the 10th round. But now Estrada with this victory, and his essentially his re-debut at super flyweight, albeit this took place actually a little bit over the 115-pound limit for super flyweight. Estrada was 116, Tabugon was 116 and a half. I guess they just made, because it wasn't for a title, they just settled on it being a little bit over the actual division limit, largely probably to help Tabugon, since the fight was made, fairly on fairly late notice. It was made maybe a month ago, if I remember right. But in any case, Estrada managed to pull it off. Just an easy victory, won every round. Tabugon pretty much landed in the single digits every round. I'd say probably the most punches he landed was actually in the 10th, when he managed to land like maybe in the double digits. Otherwise he was landing maybe 1-2 punches around for the first couple, and then maybe a little bit more as Estrada was looking to try and actually take him out. Wasn't quite able to do it though, and he didn't necessarily step on the gas entirely in order to try to knock Tabugon out. It seemed like he was definitely just kind of working out the kinks, getting everything warmed up, getting everything oiled up, and ready to fire on all cylinders for his next fight. So he definitely managed to do the job. Just showed his overall level of class over, who was essentially a ranked journeyman in Raymond Tabugon, a guy that definitely didn't deserve to be winning any rounds against him, to put it that way. But Estrada, pulled it off, did a damn fine job of doing it, and in spite of the fact that he vacated his flyweight belts, basically putting the idea of a Don Nietes or a Kazuto Ioka fight, pumping the brakes on that. He has called out Carlos Cuadras in a potential WBC eliminator to become the mandatory for Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, and he also has called out Naoya the Monster Inoue. And from what I've seen, it looks like Inoue's people were ready and willing to send out an offer for Estrada to fight Inoue on the upcoming New Year's cards. December 29th, the 30th, and the 31st is going to be cards, most likely all 3 of those days, from the different rival promoters over in Japan. Taken, Ohashi, and Ioka, amongst others. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly which route he takes. I think that if he does manage to get that shot with Inoue or Carlos Cuadras, should they manage to have it, I think either of those fights would be fantastic. It'd be really nice to see if they could get the Cuadras fight made, if Gonzalez winds up not immediately rematching Cuadras, because it's looking like it's a bigger possibility that Gonzalez is going to have to fight the mandatory, who was the guy that Cuadras beat to actually get the title, the WBC title, in Sisaketsu Rongvasai, a.k.a. Wisak Silwangek. Or he may possibly fight Juan Churritos Hernandez, who was actually one of the mandatories at flyweight, funny enough. But he's a guy, he's a floater, essentially. He's a guy that, fights at whatever weight the opponent is willing to fight him at, essentially. He's one of those type of guys, He's not an A-side, really. But he's a really solid fighter, in spite of the fact that he's not necessarily like a star fighter the way that like a Gonzalez or an Estrada or an Ioka or Inoue are. But depending on how Gonzalez goes about his next little bit of business, if Estrada Cuadras were to get made, it'd be amazing if they could have that like on an HBO card, like potentially maybe like on the card with Salido and Miura. I think that would be just an incredible card to put that on. Especially because I mean the fact of the matter is I think that HBO as long as they're gonna be staying in the boxing business, they should try to spread the wealth around a little bit more. Try to get a little bit more uh, just of an overview of the general scene at some of these weight classes where they're trying to build stars. You got to build rivals for those stars as well. And Cuadras has now emerged as a big time rival for Gonzalez, along with Estrada and Inoue. And so having Cuadras and Estrada face off on your network would be a fantastic way for either of them to earn the rematch and go into it with a hell of a lot of hype and just a great amount of like name recognition, fan recognition, and so on and so forth to get that either of those potential rematches made. Albeit it seems like Gonzalez's demands for the Estrada rematch are very much above and beyond what he's managed to set a precedent for himself thus far. Like it's if he's going to get the 7 figures that he wants for an Estrada rematch, I think it'll probably take maybe another year, a few more wins, maybe trying to get to that elusive 49-0 or 50-0 marker for him to get the bigger paydays for Estrada. Unfortunately, it's one of those cases where I mean when you got guys like Vasyl Lomachenko who has a recent loss getting close to those 7 figures, like it's a crime for Gonzalez not to be getting close to or above and beyond that in a major way. But it is what it is. Sometimes not all promoters are created equal, not all management is created equal. It's not always an outright case of you're the best, so you get the money. It's not an outright meritocracy. It's there's a lot more things to it. But as it goes, though, the purses will definitely increase for all of these guys, and if Estrada gets offered the $275K that was supposedly offered to Roman Gonzalez, I think that's excellent payday for him. I think that's exactly the type of track that he's been looking for. Because if I remember right, when HBO was originally offering up the rematch, for Gonzalez and Estrada, I think was initially cool with it was either a $250,000 or $500,000 initially, because it's like he was really eating to get that rematch. Because he knew that was going to put him in a major way to really make huge paydays in the future. So he's definitely a guy that's he's not willing to take poverty money, but he's definitely willing to take the shorter end of the stick, so to speak, in order to potentially make himself a bigger name, a bigger draw, and just a bigger money grab in the future. He'll take a couple $100,000 to ensure that for his next fight, after he gets the victory, he'll make closer to $500,000. So it'd be nice to see if Estrada gets either one of those fights, especially the Inoue fight. When you have basically 3 guys in line, kind of all battling for position to try and get a fight with Gonzalez, Estrada and Cuadras being rematches, Inoue would be the first fight. Then one of the best ways to do that is for guys to start trying to corner the market. Try to cut a certain fighter off at the pass. You try to eliminate all of the other potential rivals for that fighter that you're aiming at, and then you back him into a corner, and so the fan demand becomes that he fights you because you eliminated all of his other possible opponents, all of his other possible options, all of his other possible rivals. So I think that's just that's the way you go about getting a rematch with somebody, or even just getting a fight with them. In general, you go to wherever they're at, and you eliminate every potential option that they have other than you, and make it so that they have to go through you in order to be legitimized as the best in their division, or the best pound for pound, or the best whatever. That's the best, period. As the man, as the guy that runs wherever you happen to be at. And it looks like Gallo Estrada's trying to do that, man. He's trying to cut Cuadras off. He's trying to cut Inoue off, and he's trying to make it so that, like, no, I'm the rival. I'm the man that beat Gonzalez, and I'm the man that's going to beat him again. That's what Gallo Estrada's saying. And I think that he's going about it the correct way, the right way. And hopefully the offers and everything, the business end of the deals get done and solidified, and Estrada versus either Cuadras in December or Inoue at the very end of December on New Year's gets made. Either of those fights are fantastic fights. And I think especially the Inoue fight would be just a really great mesh of styles. I mean, either of the fights are really great meshes of styles. You know, you have Cuadras, who has like that kind of Sugar Ray Leonard-esque style, just fast hands, fast feet, rat-a-tat, explosive, athletic. You know, very agile, all over the ring. And then you have Estrada, who's very much a little bit more. He's very mobile himself, very good on his toes and everything. But he likes to set up shop. You know, do a little bit of shoulder rolling, move his shoulders. You know, bob and weave out into his defense and then into his offense from his defense as he's counterpunching you with combinations, just consistent combinations, hooks, check hooks, a lot of beautiful stuff that he does. And then you got Inoue, who's a little bit more of a power guy. You know, he's really trying to set up shop at mid range for the most part and really get full extension, full power on his shots, trying to really like hurt you, knock you out, put big just hurting power on every shot that he throws, like just trying to really do damage to you. So I think like the three styles is a great little bit of mesh, the way that it goes. And Estrada against either of them makes for an excellent fight. You know, Estrada's a little bit more of a defensive fighter, a bit more of a technical fighter. So he's the guy that out of the four is really the most likely to not necessarily be fan friendly or TV friendly as they like to talk about in common parlance. You know, just by virtue of the fact that he could very easily win a fight by taking the fight out of the fight. He can take the air out of the fight. You know, he's a guy that, in spite of the fact that he does have a pretty solid work rate of his own, he's not just an overt knockout puncher. He's a guy that kind of breaks guys down just by virtue of the fact that he's so accurate and he's landed so many consistent punches. But the fact that he makes it look so easy, it can be very easy to kind of get lulled into the fact that he's just dominating so completely and conclusively against a certain fighter that it's like he takes the drama out of the fight in that sense. Whereas with Inoue and Cuadras, the level of flash in their styles puts a lot into the fight. So it's like you might see somebody completely get cleanly concussed, knocked out, and the whole nine. They're a little bit more of a flashy type of highlight reel style, whereas Estrada is a little bit more of like a defensive highlight reel style. If you wanted to show a guy like the art of being slick and stuff like that, that's a bit more Estrada's game. But just a solid win for Estrada. Just to recap it, clean cut domination over basically a stay busy opponent, a comeback opponent, getting his feet back wet and getting into the mix at super flyweight. One of the most jam-packed divisions of boxing. Along with the likes of like super featherweight, lightweight. Just some divisions definitely on the rise, and with a lot of the top fighters looking to rally for position, trying to see who's really the best around. So it's going to be interesting, whichever way it goes, especially if it's either Cuadras or Inoue. Hopefully it's nobody other than those two. But I mean, and I think that one of those fights is going to get made, especially the Inoue fight, because Inoue's been offering fights to everybody, man. He got turned down by Concepcion, got turned down by Cas, and he seemed to a bit lowball Gonzalez, so of course he wound up getting turned down there because $275K for a guy that just made $400K against a lesser known guy in Cuadras makes no sense at all. But against the likes of an Estrada, makes a lot more sense. That's definitely a different scenario altogether. Estrada's definitely a guy that's willing to go wherever he's got to go. He defeated Brian Valoria in Macau to get those two belts. He fought Gonzalez in LA to try and get that belt back at 108 off of him. So he's definitely willing to go wherever he has to go in foreign territory and enemy territory to try and get it done, man. And that's just solidness that we've come to expect from Gallo Estrada, and he's definitely going to be a tough out for anybody. He's a tough fighter, man, and I wouldn't put it past him for him to potentially come out on top after it's all said and done between all these fighters, just because of how skilled the man is, of how sharp he is, just brilliant technical ability with Gallo Estrada. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Catch you on the next one. Peace.